Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Srini here. So this is session 2 in the testng series of videos, and this we are going to discuss about annotations in this particular tutorial session. So if you're new to this channel, do consider subscribing to it, as you'll be getting a lot of free tutorials on Selenium, Java, Python, API automation, and you can even get a lot of free interview questions on Java and Selenium. So let's get started with today's video. So in today's video, we're going to learn about different annotations which are used in testng and how do we use it as a part of our testng.xml and how do we use it in our testng framework. We are going to look at all of those aspects, but this is going to be just the introduction part of annotations in this video. And we might just start with the practical part and then continue in detail in the next part with the annotations usage with respect to testng framework. So let's get started with the topic. So these are the different testng annotations. So if you haven't looked at my previous lecture, I would just strongly recommend go ahead and look at the overview on the testng, where I've clearly explained as to what are the advantages and what is the meaning of annotations and what are the different annotations. I have just given a glimpse of that. So in this particular video, we are going to look at the detail of each and every annotation. Let's get started. So the first annotation is called @test. Now, @test indicates that this is a method which is going to be called as a test method. So it's not exactly a test case; it's a test method. So I'll be showing you all when I go into the testng.xml in Eclipse what is a test case and what is a test method. There is a difference between both. So this is a test method; it is not a test case. So whatever we are writing, any method, if you are defining, let's say any method, let's say M1 method, and if we write @test before that, so it will indicate that this particular M1 method is a test case method. Okay, and in testng, all the execution has been done by the test method, @test method. It is not done by any main method. So entire execution has been driven by the @test method, right? So we are just going to just put this @test before any method, and that will give us an indication that it's a test case method. So like what we have a main method in Java. Similarly, with @test annotation, we'll be triggering our execution of our test suite, right? So we are going to see how it is to be done in practical session in the next session. The next annotation is @before method. So this annotation suggests that whatever methods are a part of before method, right? So there will be just one method which will be called as @before method, and what it signifies is that whatever we have to do, a configuration part or launching the browser, whatever things we have to do before we execute any test case, this particular test case, the first test case method, before we execute any test case method, that particular configuration or that particular portion of the code will be executed. Now this could be like launching the browser every time before we start a new test case method. So that will be a required thing. What is after method? What has to be done in the code after every test case method has completed? So this could be like closing the browser session, right? Or quitting all the open windows, so that once a particular session is completed for a test case method, then whenever the next test case method gets started, again we execute the same set of before method and after method code. So that is why these two methods are important. Now there is something called as before test here and after test. So this indicates that this will be executed before the entire test case. So there is always a confusion which the interviewers want to just check if the interviewee has enough knowledge or not, and they just question them on the same. The question is that what is the difference between @before method and @before test? Now the reason they ask this question is because both of them, if you see before method, this means it's @test method, and before test, then they also think, okay, this could be also @test. No, this before test means it is before a test case. So when I show you testng.xml, I will be again briefing in detail about the difference between the two, before method and before test. So for now, just think about this, that it is going to be executed before the complete test case gets executed. And after test is going to be executed after all of the test cases have been executed, right? So after each and every individual test case has been completed, then we are going to basically do this portion of the code. Now you could just ask here, what is the difference between then before test and before method? There is a lot of confusion here. So here is a basic thing. A test actually, right? Before test, let's come to first terminology of test. In before test, this test word means that this is a collection of at the rate test methods. It's not just one at the rate test. It could be one only, but it could be more than one as well, right? We're talking about a collection of 10 test cases, let's say, or 20 test cases, let's say. So what is the meaning of at the rate before test? That means that before you start off with your test case, which is a collection of 20 test case methods, you have to do this at the rate before test. Similarly, at the rate after test means that once your those 10 test case methods have been done, then you have to go ahead and do this particular task. So that is the meaning of at the rate after test. So we'll look into that when we look at testng.xml. Now, what about the other annotation? So we have at the rate before class, at the rate after class. So as the name suggests, class. So a class is going to have a set of test cases, right? Is it correct? So we are going to look at this aspect also in testng.xml, and we will see what methods to execute, etc., and how this before class and after class plays a role. We are going to look at that. So the definition wise, if you look at this, the methods under it will be executed before execution of the entire class. So whatever tests are mentioned within the entire class, before any of those, this will be executed. And after class means after all of the tests have been executed under the mentioned class, whatever we have mentioned in the testng.xml file, then this will be executed. So we'll come to parameters and data provider later. Now let's jump on to the practical part. So I'll create a new project. We'll create a new Java project. Okay, we'll just call it as testng illustration, and let's click on finish. So first thing is that we should have already have testng installed. So you can look at my previous video as to how to install testng in Eclipse, and we have to download testng jar as well. So I've assumed that you all have done that prerequisites before watching this session. So just go to src and create a new package. Let's call it as pkg, and let's create a class. Okay, we would not be creating any main method here because in testng itself we have a feature of at the rate test which will execute our program from the start. So we need not have any main method. Now we would be required to import some library. We don't need the constructor here, so we'll remove that. Now we'll be required to add the libraries of the Selenium as well as of testng jar, and we'll have to add it to our build path, right? So let's do that. So I'm going to just add it to my, I'll just create a folder first here. I'll create a folder here. I'll call it as lib, because I want to add my libraries to this one, right? And I also want to just, okay, let's do one thing. Let's directly copy paste it. So I've already copied it. Let's directly paste it here. Yeah, so I've already copied the libraries, whatever are required for doing testng with Selenium. So we just have to add it to the build path, right? And even I have the Chrome driver.exe, since we're going to use Chrome for this particular illustration. So we'll just have to go to the project, go to build path, configure the build path, and add the jars, and add all the jars which are there on the lib folder. Right, apply and close. So the libraries are added now. We can just also add one more library, that is for testng. So just go to build path, add libraries, and add testng library. Yeah, so this just completes our configuration part. Now we'll be writing the actual test cases. So as I mentioned, we would not be using any main method here. So let's say we have a method from which we want to start our execution. We'll just call it like a normal test case one, let's say. It's like a normal method. Now we want to make it as a at the rate test method. So when I say at the rate test means this annotation below this particular method will be now becoming a test case method. this is a test case method. So let's remember it this way. It's a test case method. So we will have to import the annotations from the jar. So we are going to import org.testng.annotations, not org.junit. So let's go ahead and import that. Right. So this error is gone. Similar to this, we will have one more method called as before method. So before this particular test method gets executed, what is the piece of code we want to execute? So that we are going to put here before setup. Let's say before test setup, right? And similarly, we are going to have another method for after this test method is executed. Let's call it as after test method, right? So what you're going to do now, right? So this is going to be our after method. So we are going to put the piece of code which we want to execute after this particular test method has been executed. That's the purpose of this after method. Similarly, we will have before test. So this is how we are going to place our annotations in this file, and we'll call it as before. We can give any name. Right, so we'll have to import these annotations. So I'll do that. I'm just first showing what are the different annotations which are used, so that in this lecture we can complete that topic. And similarly, we have before class and after class. These are the first set of annotations which I wanted to explain, and I'll be covering the other annotations which are like the data provider and parameters in the next lecture, because it will be difficult to cover all in one. Yeah. Now what we have to do is we have covered all the major annotations apart from the data providers part and parameters. So we have to just import these by doing a mouse over. Import before method, import after method, import before test, import after test, before class. Remember to select the testng, not the JUnit. And yeah, and we just have to change the name. So we'll change the name. Before class, this is after class. This is going to be after test, right? Before test, after test setup, before test setup. Yeah, and yeah, so this we have to change. Yeah, so now there is no error, and we have completed all the annotations in this particular file. So I'll be just focusing on this first part, that is on the first slide. We had covered the different annotations: test, before method, after method, before test, and after test. And I'll take before class and after class. For that purpose, what I'll have to do, I'll have to convert this particular project into testng project. Now we have already configured testng, and this is in testng itself. That's right. But still, we will have to convert the project to testng so that we get that testng.xml file. So how to do that? Just do right click, and there is an option below. If you just click on the below options, there is a testng option. Just click on testng, convert to testng. Right? So it's going to give you a file like this, and it's giving you a template how the testng.xml is going to look like. And it has by default placed your class within this classes tag. Whatever class was present in your pkg, it has taken one sample one which has that testng method, and just click on next, click on finish. So you can see a testng.xml file getting generated. Just double click on that, and you can see this kind of source getting opened. So we have to go to the source tab, not the design tab. We have to go to the source tab. And in the source tab, these are the different tags which are there as a part of this testng.xml. So for now, don't worry about any of these things here. Just consider that we have, I want to just show you the structure here. This is the parent of all. It's called a suit level. Then we are having the test cases level, right? Then we have the classes, and then classes gets completed. Then we have the test. So whatever test we are talking about here, this does not mean @test. So do not be confused here. And I'm just trying to explain that question which the interviewer would ask you, the difference between before method and before test here, right? So that difference will be very clear from this testng.xml. So this particular test means your @before test. So when I say before test, this means before we start executing anything as a part of this test. That is the meaning of your before test, right? And let's talk about methods. So where will these methods be coming into testng.xml, right? So that's a very important thing, and we have to understand the significance of where this is going to be a part of. Otherwise, you're going to get an error when you try to execute with testng.xml. So what you have to do is just look at the testng test.java file and just understand what is it all about. Okay, this is the entire Java file. It is having a collection of what? It is having a collection of test cases. That's the thing you have to consider. And what are the test cases going to have? They are going to have nothing but classes, right? Now there is only one class here in this project, right, which is testng tests, which is having the @test annotation. So we are not going to be confused as such. We just have to consider with one tag, the class tag, which is a part of test case, right? This is a test case actually. These are test cases, and these test is going to have only one class here. And now this class is having this particular class, that is testng test, whatever name we have mentioned here, is having so many @test methods. These are called test case methods, right? So how many are there? One, two. There are two test case methods here, and then rest are all just the supporting annotations like before method, after method, etc. So we just have two test methods here. So now what we're going to do, we are just going to remove that closing tag, and we are going to add. So it will be a part of this class. If you look at this class is a collection of different @test methods, right? So, and we are going to have two @test methods here, test case 1 and test case 2. So what we are going to do, we are just going to keep it down here, and we are going to include one more tag called methods. These are called methods. Again, I'm repeating it. Test case is different and methods are different. Methods are nothing but the @test. So if we want to execute any specific method, we have to use this tag called include, and just include this attribute called name, and that is it. We just have to place this symbol so that there is no need to include this tag again. So if you do this way, that's all you have to do. So now we are going to include this particular name as a part of our execution, and I am going to exclude this name, or even if I don't mention anything, it's just going to execute only one test case. So for now, let me just say this like this, and I'll make it as exclude. So there are two tags here, include and exclude. So if you want to skip any test case from getting executed, you can just simply exclude that particular test case explicitly as a part of your methods tag. And that is all we need to do. So this, if when we run, it is going to execute only test case 1, right? And when I say test case 1, what will happen now? It's going to execute only @test. But before this test method gets executed, we know that we are going to have @before method getting executed. So let's write something here. Before method, and let's write some syntax here for after method. Similarly, before test and after test, so that I can explain you how is the sequence of the execution. So this is before test, right? And now we are going to have a after test. And similarly, let's have for the class as well. So that will conclude our topic for this particular tutorial session. Once we look at the sequence of the execution. So this is going to be before class, and this is going to be after class, right? So now let's understand what is the sequence of execution going to be. So you are at the test level, right? You are at the test level. So under that we have classes. Under that we have methods. So it's very simple to understand what will be the sequence. So let's run this program and let's see what is the sequence getting established here. I'll run it from testng.xml. Yeah, the program has got completed. And now if you can look at this, look at the hierarchy, what I had explained you in the testng.xml, and look at what has happened with the execution. It has exactly matched with whatever is a part of your testng.xml structure. First will come your test. So it's before test, then before class, So before class. Then comes the method within the class. So it's before method. And then you are actually in the test method, which is test case one. So it's saying in test case one. And then you're closing whatever has to be done in the after method part. So you're having after method. That is to just conclude whatever has to be done as a part of the conclusions after test case one has done. And then you have after class, and then you have after test. So this is always going to be the sequence of your execution, and you have to understand this hierarchy properly and the difference between the test and the methods. So hope that the session was very useful to you all in case if some concepts were not clear before this tutorial session, and I'm happy to help here. So the next session will be a continuation on the testng.xml in detail, looking at the attributes and also looking at how to use those different attributes with respect to our test cases as a part of testng test.java. And we'll also continue with the other sessions on the data provider. Thanks for watching this video, and do subscribe to my channel if you haven't done yet. Thank you so much.